When you look at the current investment landscape, I mean, the incredible speed of the AI boom, the sheer volatility in crypto, does any of that feel familiar?
It really does. That kind of intense speculation, driven by this blind optimism, it has echoes of the market right before 1929.
Exactly. And that's the provocative question Andrew Ross Sorkin forces us to confront, isn't it? Are we actually doomed to repeat history, or can a warning like this one maybe, just maybe, save us this time around?
That's the challenge, right? We're diving deep into Sorkin's book, 1929, inside the greatest crash in Wall Street history and how it shattered a nation. It's a really powerful piece of historical narrative, financial journalism too, published October 2025, so just short of the 100-year mark of the crash itself.
Now, we believe that some books really need to be challenged, questioned. So this critique it uses, where it makes sense, a step-by-step critical thinking framework. We're mapping claims to evidence, thinking about the logic behind it.
Right, drawing on folks like Richard Paul and Linda Elder for that critical thinking piece. And we also apply an intellectual framework using ideas from Mortimer J. Adler.
And we don't stop there. We use the golden rule, that reciprocity test, and even the U.S. Preamble to try and spot any ethical asymmetries in the story. Then we wrap it up with a logical analysis, aiming for a balanced conclusion.
And just a quick note for you, the listener. You're experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation. This is powered by Google's NotebookLM, designed for a deeper, more dynamic book critique.
Okay, let's jump right into the findings. Sorkin's core thesis is pretty stark, isn't it?
Oh yeah. He argues 1929 isn't just some dusty chapter in an economics textbook. It's alive. It's a contemporary warning about what he calls the seductive illusion that this time is different.
He really hammers home that financial speculation is cyclical. It's driven by this potent mix of greed, blind optimism, and human folly, things that don't seem to change much.
And he doesn't just say that. He backs it up. Sorkin's major assertion number one is basically that the crash wasn't some random bolt from the blue. It came from identifiable patterns, greed, corruption, incompetence.
The evidence he brings is just wow.
It's immense. Seriously.
We're not just talking about reading other history books here. Sorkin dug deep. He got his hands on previously undisclosed documents from some huge Wall Street firms, even found an unpublished memoir from a banking insider who saw it all unfold.
That's incredible. But the real jaw-dropper, for me anyway, comes from the Federal Reserve Archives.
Oh, tell us about that.
He uncovered these previously undisclosed discussions, internal talks from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And they show, documented proof that key governors back in 1928 knew the market was getting out of control.
Knew it.
Yes. One memo even called the bubble an unsustainable confidence game. But those warnings, they're either buried or just dismissed. Leadership seemed more focused on keeping up appearances, maintaining that illusion of stability.
Wow. That silence, knowing what was coming, it's chilling.
Absolutely chilling. And it makes his major assertion number two, the idea that 1929 mirrors our current times, really hit home.
He explicitly draws those parallels, doesn't he, to the current market manias, specifically mentioning crypto and AI stocks.
He does. It's a direct challenge to this notion that because we have faster information or different technology, we're somehow immune to the mistakes of the past.
His observation is sharp. Each wave entices us into believing we've learned from the past. But then that basic human behavior kicks back in.
That desire to get rich quick, the collective excitement, it just seemed to bubble up again every generation or so. Hope triumphs over historical experience again and again.
Which leads straight into his major assertion number three, the alarm bells that nobody listened to.
Exactly. Sorkin really focuses on the skeptics. People like Roger Babson, who were desperately trying to warn everyone, the public, the regulators, that this speculative fever was going to end badly.
And they were just laughed off, weren't they? Called pessimists, party poopers.
Until the crash proved them right. But by then, it was far too late for the average person, the ordinary investor.
The human cost he details, it's staggering how quickly confidence just vanished. Bank runs, mass unemployment. It wasn't just numbers on a stock ticker, it was lives shattering.
The whole foundation seemed to crack.
Okay, so moving beyond the sheer dramatic facts of the collapse, we need to assess the quality of the knowledge here. Does the book just give us information, or does it push towards genuine, practical wisdom?
Good question. On the information level, using Adler's framework, the book is definitely a success. It provides really well evidenced claims about the sequence of the crash, the regulatory responses that came after, The SEC, Glass-Steagall.
And the documented behavior, the
Yeah.
psychology of the key players.
Absolutely. It nails the what happened.
And I think it achieves understanding, too. You can clearly see the connections Sorkin draws. The speculative mindset plus the regulatory gaps equals systemic disaster. The pattern is clear.
Right. But the big test, the wisdom check, that's where it gets more complex.
Does it offer lessons we can actually use today to promote societal health, to avoid future harm? Or is it just a really, really good diagnosis of a past illness?
Exactly. Sorkin is brilliant at telling us what happened and why it happened back then. But translating that into concrete, practical guidance for how we prevent the next speculative disaster today, that's inherently tougher. The book raises the question more than it provides a simple answer.
So let's use our ethical checks to dig into that complexity. We look at the stakeholders involved, the executives driving the speculation, the average person with money in the bank, the workers who lost their jobs, who really paid the price when it all came crashing down.
The historical record Sorkin presents is pretty unambiguous on that. The profits during the boom were largely privatized. Huge risks were taken by insiders. But when the bust came, the catastrophic losses were socialized almost immediately.
Meaning the little guy got hit hardest?
Disproportionately so. Sorkin documents how the crash devastated the least advantaged parties, small investors wiped out, factory workers losing their livelihoods. Meanwhile, the evidence suggests many key insiders, the executives, managed to hold on to their wealth and influence even through the crisis.
That lack of reciprocity, it's stark. The risk and reward were just fundamentally misaligned. That seems like a defining feature of the whole 1929 story he tells.
It really is.
Okay, before we get into the logical analysis of Sorkin's warnings for today, we just want to quickly mention something. Using historical insight to spark clear thinking, that's something we really value.
Absolutely. And you can find more of that approach over at Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel. We offer AI book analysis, summaries, critiques, and POD casts, all designed to inspire reflection and rational thought.
Definitely check it out. Now, continuing with that ethical framework, we looked at the book through the lens of the U.S. Preamble, specifically the goals of establishing justice and ensuring domestic tranquility.
Right. In terms of establishing justice, Sorkin scores pretty high, wouldn't you say?
I think so. By documenting the systemic unfairness, the way the financial system was rigged, the regulatory capture that allowed it all, he really shines a light on the injustice baked into the system back then. We gave it a 7 out of 10.
Agreed. But then you look at ensuring domestic tranquility, and it's a bit more complicated. Maybe a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that sounds about right. On one hand, learning from history should help prevent future crises, which promotes stability, tranquility.
But on the other hand, Sorkin draws such strong, almost aggressive parallels between 1929 and today's AI and crypto markets. That warning is so sharp it could actually generate anxiety right now. It might disrupt the very tranquility it hopes to protect in the long run.
It's a fine line. Which brings us neatly to the logical analysis. When you draw these kinds of direct historical parallels saying, this looks just like that, you always run the risk of certain logical fallacies.
Definitely. The first one we flagged is potential post hoc reasoning.
Explain that one a bit.
It's the trap of assuming that just because some current conditions follow historical patterns like, say, rapid rises in tech stocks, or lots of everyday people speculating that a similar catastrophic outcome is automatically inevitable.
Right. Correlation isn't causation, and patterns don't always mean identical results. We have to avoid thinking it's destiny just because it looks familiar.
And closely related is the risk of a false analogy. Does Sorkin fully grapple with how today's markets are genuinely different from 1929?
Good point. Think about the speed of information now, the federal deposit insurance we have, the global interconnectedness. These things didn't exist in the same way back then.
Exactly. So simply saying AI speculation looks like the radio stock speculation of the 1920s might overlook some crucial differences, some modern firewalls that might exist.
It's a fair critique. We also need to consider availability bias.
Bias. The power of a dramatic story.
Precisely. The narrative of a sudden dramatic crash like 1929 is incredibly compelling. It sticks in your mind. But that vividness might overshadow the more complex, maybe less dramatic economic factors, or the slow, grinding policy failures that also contributed to the long depression that followed.
Sorkin focuses intensely on the crash itself, which makes for gripping reading, but it might slightly obscure the broader, perhaps messier, economic picture.
Okay, so acknowledging those potential logical pitfalls and comparing history to the present, what are the book's logical strengths?
Oh, there are many. The depth of research is just outstanding, undeniably. He presents a very systematic historical analysis, and the writing style is accessible, which is crucial.
Yeah, it helps preserve that vital intergenerational knowledge, doesn't it? It genuinely contributes to financial literacy for people who weren't around for previous bubbles.
Absolutely. He connects past and present financial behavior without getting bogged down in overly technical jargon, which is really hard to do well. That's a major strength.
But there is that critique some readers have mentioned that the emotional connection feels a bit distant sometimes. Elusive was the word used.
Right. The sheer detail on financial mechanics, while impressive, can make it feel, for some, more like a well-researched documentary transcript than a truly immersive narrative.
And perhaps that intense focus on the banking collapse mechanics might overshadow a deeper dive into the systemic reforms needed today. Reforms that are often political and structural, not just technical fixes.
That's a fair point. And it brings us back full circle to those big, unresolved questions the book leaves you wrestling with. These are the things every thoughtful reader, every learner has to grapple with after putting it down.
First, how do we as a society keep that economic dynamism going? How do we encourage the innovations Sorkin acknowledges was part of the 1920s boom, but prevent the kind of wild speculative excess that destroyed so much wealth?
It's the perennial balancing act, isn't it? And second, maybe even more relevant right now, what is the right role for government intervention into financial markets? How much regulation is enough? Where's the line between freedom and responsibility, especially when we know risks can get socialized?
Yeah, who bears the risk versus who gets the reward?
And the third big one ties it all together. How do we balance all this amazing technological innovation, whether it was radio then or AI now, with the fundamental need for systemic stability, especially when technology itself is speeding everything up, including investment and speculation?
These aren't easy questions. They're the real-world homework Sorkin's historical deep dive assigns us.
Well put.
So, just to reiterate for clarity, this critique used a systematic and precise framework. We mapped the book's claims against evidence, we applied ethical standards, we checked for logical consistency, all to ensure a comprehensive evaluation.
And our conclusion. Sorkin's book is incredibly valuable. It's a vital historical chronicle, and it serves as a very serious, timely warning. It definitely achieves a high level of knowledge, documenting the past with amazing rigor.
But that ultimate step, practical wisdom, it's maybe more limited there. The answers aren't handed to you on a plate.
Exactly. The wisdom comes from how proactively you, the listener, choose to engage with and apply the hard-won lessons detailed in his pages. The book gives you the tools, but you have to decide how to use them.
Click the link on screen for the in-depth book analysis. Subscribe, share, purchase via the link, and keep thinking rationally.